A warm welcome to Disky Talk with Luyolo. If you're tuning in for the very first time, I do ask that you please subscribe and hit that notification bell. If you've been a part of this journey, I hope you thoroughly enjoy this episode. So, on today's episode, I discuss all things Dstv Premiership action as Mamelodi Sundowns do take on Orlando Pirates. So, coming up into this encounter then, this is a very, very interesting encounter from a qualitative perspective, especially when you have a look at both teams with regards to the depth and the talent that both teams possess. So, Mamelodi Sundowns will be represented by the red side. Orlando Pirates will be represented by the blue side. So when we have a look at it then, Mamelodi Sundowns are the informed team in the country. They've opened up such a huge gap at the top of the Dstv Premiership log standings. With Orlando Pirates then, they have been a very inconsistent side and have picked up a lot of draws. But as of late, they've picked up a couple of victories. So when you have a look at it then, Mamelodi Sundowns have enjoyed a 4-2-2-2 system. In goals, you most will likely have Dennis Onyango starting in goals. And when we have a look at the back four then, Lila K as the left back, two centre backs, Rushin Druk as the left-sided centre back, Grant Kekan as the right-sided centre back, and then at right back you will have Tapelo Murena. So when you have a look then at this back four, this is a back four that ticks numerous boxes from a qualitative perspective, very solid, especially then when you have a look at this centre back pairing. They've been key for Mamelodi Sundowns, and whenever they've played together, they've kept so many clean sheets, and Mamelodi Sundowns have looked very, very solid. However, also important to note then that because this is a jam-packed schedule, we could see a couple of changes and rotation being instituted, throughout the league with regards to the fixtures and the teams as well. But when we have a look at it, I think this will be the back four that would most likely start. When you have a look at Lila K, this is a player then who does give you the width in vertical zone one. Very, very good left-sided player then, has great technical ability on him. We do know that he can also then strike those free kicks very well. From set pieces, he delivers quality balls and also has beautiful deep crosses into the box. And then when we have a look at it then, Tapelo Murena, this is a player then who would give you the width on the right-hand side, and will be key then for Mamelodi Sundowns with regards to then ensuring that when Mamelodi Sundowns do dominate proceedings, he does give them that width and he does give them that outlet within vertical zone 5. When we have a look at it then from a midfield perspective, very interesting then because there's so many options that they could go with, as Andile Jali will most likely come back into the side. We do know that against SuperSport, the last time against SuperSport, he didn't play. But I think that Andile Jali will continue to start. And I think he's been the best midfielder within the Dstv Premiership this season. The interesting thing then is who pairs him. I think then you'd pair Andile Jali with Mkhulisi, as I think when you have a look at this type of game, this is a game that Mkhulisi could be so key within the heart of midfield. And then when you have a look at it then, the two playmakers, you will have Maema, and then you will have Themba Zwane. So they would normally then occupy those two half spaces. However, because Sundowns then is a team that look to have the numerical advantage within vertical zone 3 and look then to institute the overload within the half spaces, sometimes you could find them within the same half space looking to link up play and orchestrate play for this Mamelodi Sundowns side. Very key then at creating chances for this Mamelodi Sundowns side, as we do know that from a qualitative perspective, they tick so many boxes. And what I like then about these two creative players is that they both have an eye for goal and they both have that extra pass, which is so very key and fundamental to how Mamelodi Sundowns play. And they can also then occupy vertical zone 3 and pop up into zone 14 as well, where then they look to add that presence for this Mamelodi Sundowns side. They can pop up in the same half space at the same time. They can pop up within vertical zone 3 and institute a numerical overload within the heart of midfield, and they just pop up in so many different pockets of spaces, and they're just a menace to play against. And then what's interesting then is to see who plays as the 2 up front, but Shalulile does start up front, and I think then it will either be Kutumela or Serginho. And when you have a look at it then, Shalulile is in fine form. He does sit at the top of the Dstv Premiership goal standings, and I think he's well on his way this season to getting those 20 goals within the Dstv Premiership, as he's been doing very, very well. And then I think if Kutumela is fit, he would start, or Serginho. And when you have a look at it from this perspective, then this is what Mamelodi Sundowns would normally do then to the opposition. So within the opposition half, they do tend to take up a very aggressive formation, which at times can look somewhat of a 3-6-1, where then they're looking then to institute an overload within vertical zone 3, an overload then within the half spaces, and also then at the same time keep the width with the 2 wing backs, with Laila K in vertical zone 1 and then with Tapelo Murena in vertical zone 5. And when you have a look at it from this perspective, then this is how they look to do damage and how aggressive they can become within the opposition half. And then off the bench, there's so many players that can come off the bench, and there's so many options for this Mamelodi Sundowns side. You know, if Serginho doesn't start, he could always come off the bench. You know, you've got a Rivaldo Kutia, you've got Mvala, you've got Domingo. You know, there's a Gift Mtupa, there's an Erasmus, there's a Safranco, there's Kapinga as well. So many options off the bench, and this is what Mamelodi Sundowns then look to do, and how they control the game and manage the game then from a ball possession perspective, and how they look to progress and penetrate within the final third, and how then they look to occupy the opposition half. But then let's move to Orlando Pirates. So when we have a look at Orlando Pirates, then they have enjoyed a hybrid system. So what's interesting to note then with Orlando Pirates is that in possession, they do look to institute a 3-4-2-1. And when we have a look at it then, like I mentioned earlier on, because it is a jam-packed schedule, rotation could be instituted, and we could see other faces coming in. Some players are working their way back to full fitness, so very interesting then. But I think that they go with Mpontshane in goals as the 3 at the back, Olisanda as the right-sided centre-back. You have Nyawuza would play as the centre-back. As the left-sided centre-back, Pasekamako. This is a player then who has been so consistent for Orlando Pirates. From a defensive perspective, I think he's been Orlando Pirates' best defender this season. And very, very consistent. He will be looking then to keep up those defensive displays, which have been very, very good. Moving on then right along within the heart of midfield, they've got so many options. You know, Ben Mutswari has made a return. We have seen Munare playing there as well. And then you'd have Makaring as well. But the 2 I think they'll go with, especially considering the type of game that it is, they could most likely then go with a double pivot of Munare and Mutswari. They would then be looking to nullify then this Mamelodi Sundowns side, especially in vertical zone 3 within the center, where they look then to institute that numerical overload, and in the half spaces as well, which then could see maybe Makaringe start as further up the pitch, but then Makaringe would then be a player who would look then to come back in. If not, then it will most likely then be Mutswari and Makaringe within the heart of midfield, or Munare and Makaringe as well. As the right wing back then, Bandile Shandu, who for this Orlando Pirates side does look to give them the width on the right hand side, and then as the left wing back, we're looking at Hoto. So this is a player then who's been in form for this Orlando Pirates side. In recent week, he has scored the goals, and he has also gotten the assist, and he's created so many chances for this Orlando Pirates side. Especially then when play develops and progresses, he does then drift inside and looks then to either finish off those chances himself, or look to create those chances when he does drift inside and look to penetrate within the final third. And then when we have a look at it then, up front, they have started with Pepra, It has been Tsukamanja, and then it also has been Makhacha as well. But we do know that Thembinkosi Lorch is back and maybe might not be fully fit to start, but maybe then they could look to start him or have then Makhacha and Tsukamanja maybe starting and then have Pepra start up front. But I just think that then there is a player like Mabasa who could always start. There is a player like Mhango as well. Those are two players then who haven't really played for this Orlando Pirates side, but could make a difference within the final third. But I think that Pepra would most likely start, and those players I've mentioned would come off the bench maybe in the last 20 minutes and look to make an impact against this Mamelodi Sundowns side. So those are the players. Those will be the front three. Makhacha then has also been doing very well. He has scored a couple of goals in recent weeks and has also then been that creative force for this Orlando Pirates side. And off the bench, they've got options as well. Like I mentioned, you've got Lorch, you've got Mhango, you've got Mabasa, you've got Dlamini, who can always come off the bench and make an impact. Zungu can always come off the bench. But the type of game that it is, then I just think that Orlando Pirates will find themselves penned in their own half, as I think that Mamelodi Sundowns will enjoy the lion's share of possession. And one thing then to note about this Orlando Pirates side, 3-4-2-1 in possession, and then it goes to somewhat of a 4-4-2 out of possession. But because they play against Mamelodi Sundowns, it could very well be then a 4-5-1 out of possession as they look to sit compact. You know, when they're looking to defend without the ball, it could go then to a 4-5-1 where you'll have Shandu tucking in as the right back. You'll have Mako tucking in as well. Then you'll have the two center backs in Da and Nyauza. You'll have Hoto as the left wing. And then off the right wing, you'll have Tsukamanja drifting. And then you would then have Makhacha having to drop in and help out. And that's why then I also think that maybe this game, they could forgo Makhacha and then go with Munare and Mutsware and then Makaringe as well. How I see this game for playing out and what I foresee when it comes to this game is that from a qualitative perspective and from a ball possession perspective, Mamelodi Sundowns will look to dominate proceedings and they will then institute those overloads within the two off spaces and in vertical zone 3 and have the numerical advantage and also stretch them and keep the width with the two wing backs. And I think that the confidence and the poise and how Mamelodi Sundowns look to impose themselves, I think they'll win this game. And I think that they'll win this game 2-0. When we have a look at it then, Mamelodi Sundowns key player then will be Maema. When we have a look at Orlando Pirates then, we are looking at Hoto. However, there are those players who could always come off the bench for Orlando Pirates and look to make an impact. So, ladies and gentlemen, do let me know, what do you foresee in this game? Who do you think wins this one? And what do you think the score will be? Thank you very much for tuning in to yet another special episode of Diski Talk with Liolo. It is Mamelodi Sundowns taking on Orlando Pirates in the Dstv Premiership. Signing out.